Hey, this is Kevin with Consumer Reports, and what I've got here is this video is going to be part 5, which talks about my range tests for the Taurus 709 Slim pistol, which happens to be a compact single stack 9mm. And you can see the details of this review at my website, consumerreports.com. And when you find the Taurus review, you can somewhere click on part 5, and you'll kind of see the summary of what I'm talking about. When I went to the range, we took a selection of ammo, and I made sure that I had some ammunition that in my mind would be good carry ammunition. I had some Hornady critical defense and critical duty. I had some Federal premium Hydra-Shock. I had some cheap steel case, just value oriented, and I had some brass case Winchester white box, and I also had other ammunition there, but it was mainly full metal jacket, brass cased. When we started out shooting at about 10 yards to get the sights adjusted in, for whatever reason, and I don't know if it was the ammunition or potentially a soft grip or maybe just a tight recoil spring, but we actually had a few issues shooting the tool ammunition. It was steel cased 115 grain full metal jacket, and within 30ish rounds or so we had 3 failure to strip issues, and I'm saying that's where the slide cycles but it doesn't pick up another round. We had 1 failure to feeder chamber, and in that case the slide tries to chamber around, but it didn't feed into the chamber properly, causing the slide to basically jam, and 1 failure to lock the slide open after the last round. And this kind of gave me a little bit of concern, but I wasn't too worried about it. While we were shooting, I don't recall any of those particular issues ever occurring while I was shooting it. I had a couple other people there shooting it also, and I'm not 100% sure if that wasn't just due to maybe a loose grip. Now, while we were zeroing it in, or just after we got it zeroed in, kind of on a positive note, we were able to shoot a 1.62 inch group at 7 yards from the bench, which I thought was pretty darn good for a compact handgun. Which gave us a really good feeling that we'd get a lot better accuracy out of it as we continued to do our range testing. After we got the 709 sighted in, we ended up moving over to the steel target range, and just to do some shooting and maybe exercise the recoil spring a little bit more. And we did have 2 more issues shooting some PPU 115 grain full metal jacket, where it didn't strip the next round out of the magazine, and I think that just has to do with the slide not cycling fully rearward. And the next day is when we finished the range tests on this pistol, and we talked some about having a good grip, and I think the handgun has clearly cycled better. Once we were aware of it might be sensitive to a weaker grip. Now the next day is really when we did our accuracy testing. And for the accuracy testing, I decided to go ahead and shoot 8-shot groups from a simple bench rest system, to where basically the front of the gun supported right in this area right here on a rod with some foam on it, and then the hand being supported with basically a bean bag. We had the chronograph set up at about 10 yards, and 10 feet, and the target was set up 10 yards downrange. Now, in my mind, I felt like shooting the 8-shot group would be sufficient for this handgun. Everybody's got their opinion on accuracy and distances that you should shoot a handgun. For me, a compact handgun, at 7 yards, if it can prove to be accurate, within 8 rounds, and depending on how you want to look at that, is that 2 4-shot groups or nearly 3 3-shot groups. It doesn't really matter if you can get all 8 shots within a certain group size that's reasonable. To me, that's a good indication of the accuracy of this style of handgun. Now, in the website review, basically I summarize in this table here the accuracy results and the velocity results. And overall, if you looked at these 5 different types of ammunition that we shot an 8-shot group with, out of all 5, the group average was 1.76 inches, and our best shot was basically 1.57, and our worst group was a 2.04. And and when you start looking at these groups, clearly, if this pistol were shot in something that would be maybe potential like a ransom rest or maybe in the hands of a better shooter or a better support system, you could probably squeeze some greater accuracy out of it. But my point here is I think the variations that you see in here, even in this group size right here, is going to be more related to the shooter than it is the handgun itself. Alright, I'm not 100% how good this is coming out on the video, but this is an 8-shot group here with the Tull ammo. This group measured 1.62 inches, and these squares basically here are 1-inch squares. Here's another one over here with the Hornady American Gunner, 115 grain XTP. That was 1.57 inches. You come down here and you look at the Hornady Critical Defense. This was 1.86 inches, and this happened to be some plus P ammunition, and it was 135 grains. And then you had the Federal Premium Hydrosock, which was 147 grains, and it shot 1.72 inches. This next group that I'm showing right here was actually shot freehand using some Winchester 115 grain FMJ. It's their white box ammunition, and the 8-shot group size actually measured 1.75 inches. And trying to determine the accuracy of a handgun from the bench is great to get a feel for what the handgun may be capable of. But at the end of the day, the accuracy that the gun's going to deliver is what you can deliver. And shooting it freehand is clearly a more accurate representation of the system, meaning you and the gun itself, and what you can deliver downrange. Now, this group right here is a great example of how, once you get used to the trigger pull on the particular handgun, and what I mean by getting used to it is that it does have this portion up here, which I would call the double action portion, which is really not used when the striker's cocked and it's in the single action mode. Once you get accustomed to coming back and basically starting here at the single action point, the trigger really feels pretty good. But that trigger break point is way back here in the pull. Now, once we finished all of the, we'll say the accuracy portion of the review, we went to the steel target range and spent some time trying to put some lead on steel. And the gun really has a good feel, and to me it shot good. And in making an attempt to have a few rounds of a higher shot rate, to me it seemed like the second follow-up shots were good and on target, and I was pleased with that. We did have a couple of more issues in shooting that same Tull ammo, and in that case it was my daughter shooting it. And again, I just think that this particular handgun, I'm not sure if it's the ammo or the shooter, but it's like I think it may be sensitive to having a firm grip on the handgun to ensure that the sight is going to cycle properly. Alright, kind of for my overall thoughts for the range testing is that the Taurus 709 Slim pistol proved to have good accuracy potential for a compact handgun, and it proved this with all the ammunition that we shot. The handgun seemed sensitive to steel case Tulo, but we had no issue with premium ammunition. Again, I'm going to say that could potentially be related to just not having a firm grip on the handgun when shooting it. Overall, I think the trigger pull was good, and the sight seemed to adjust without issue. It takes a little getting acquainted to the long trigger pull before it gets to the single action mode, but when you get the feel of it, follow-up shots can be on target and quick. Overall, I'm pleased with the Taurus 709 Slim, and I think it makes a great value handgun. As I mentioned earlier, you can see everything I talked about at my website, consumerreports.com, and you can take a look at this Part 5 range test, and you can see the table that has the group sizes in there and the ammunition, and also recorded velocity and standard deviation and such. If you like this review, please like or subscribe, or both. And as always, thanks for watching.